Are you doing the introduction?
Hi, we're back. So second video. We call ourselves Do What We Say,
Not
What We Do. This is Tammy, and I go by Lori.
She identifies as Lori.
Okay, there we go.
Sweet.
So, we were thinking of talking about how we stress about retirement.
Yes. I've actually been stressing about retirement since I was about 40. I had a job that I didn't like. And so I wanted to retire as quickly as possible, which is not the right reason, maybe, to want to retire.
Agreed. Because some people just white knuckle it through a career.
Right.
Now, some people don't have a choice, so I don't want to place judgment on that. But
Right.
some are fearful of changing jobs, and so they white knuckle it, and then it's like, 65, I'm going to retire. Okay, now what? And I don't think that's what we want to do.
Right. Because how many times have we seen folks who, I think it's bizarre, but physically, I swear to goodness, they age dramatically and they decline health-wise, physically, as well as mentally in their first year of retirement. If they don't have a plan. And I'm not talking about finances. I'm not talking about finances being hard.
Right.
Because we all know that finances are going to be hard for the majority of us. I'm talking about mental health, where what am I going to do with my day?
Right.
I'm used to getting up. Now I work from home, so I don't have to put pants on anymore.
Pants are always a good idea, but okay.
But you get up, you get dressed, you have that routine.
Right.
You have something that takes up your time for 40 hours a week plus.
Right.
Now you've got jack crap for 40 hours. Now what are you going to do?
Well, and I know you and I share the concern of not having the structure because we've talked about it. Now,
Right.
I'm sure there's people that have hobbies, they have money, they have a huge social community. Maybe they go to church, maybe they have a lot of friends, maybe they
Right.
have a big family that they spend a lot of time with. And that's not us. I'm an introvert, so I tend to isolate.
I don't know that I'm an introvert.
No, you're not. You
But
have your moments.
I
You have your moments.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I do have a very small group of people that I would consider friends. And by small, I mean Lori.
More friends than that. You have more friends. You're definitely more social than I am.
Yeah. But I do worry about that, though, because I think most folks can isolate without even realizing that they've isolated.
Correct. I agree.
Because I did that, especially when I switched to having a job outside of the home to having a job inside of the home. Because it was really easy to not get dressed, to just put on PJ bottoms and a top and go to work and be good. And then before you know it, I'm not dressing. I don't have interaction with anybody. So then it becomes really easy to just be at home. You sit at your desk, you do your computer stuff. You might have a Zoom meeting, which I still don't have pants on. So at that point, I don't want to put pants on to go outside.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable.
Yeah, and that's why I don't work from home, because when I did work from home during the pandemic, I took a deep dive
Right.
where I wasn't leaving the house, and it was not good.
No.
I think it
You were in a
takes-
bad spot.
I was in a bad spot. I think that takes a special person, maybe with family, with younger kids. Sorry if you hear noise. We have a cat and a dog still getting to know each other, so please ignore the background noise. And so they, I've known some where they're like, oh, I'd love to work from home because I don't have to get the kids ready in the morning, or I don't have to pick them up, or I can pick them up earlier and take them to a sports event that I couldn't do before.
Right.
But for you and I, over 50, our children are adults.
Right.
So we don't have all of that embedded activity that we did when they were younger. And so it was a death sentence for me. That's a little dramatic, but it was not healthy for me.
It wasn't.
Not healthy.
It wasn't.
So I commend you for being able to do it and find some sort of balance. But anyway, kind of getting off track.
Right.
As we do.
Now we're talking about
Squirrel. So these are things we think about and we talk about a lot about retirement.
Yes.
We've had many conversations over the last 10 years at least.
Right.
Stressing about when to retire, how to retire, where to retire. Are we going to have enough money? When do we get Social Security?
Right.
What about Medicare? How much is Medicare? What supplemental? I mean, it's a lot.
It's a lot to think about because it's more than about just not working, which is when I was 40, what retirement meant to me was I just don't have to work. And that was my only goal. And now as I've gotten older, I'm thinking about it a little bit more, especially with talking about it and talking about those things. It's like, okay, what do I want to do? What do I want my retirement to look like? I knit like a mad woman. I don't want to just knit.
Well, because then you talk about how
my wrists
hands hurt. I mean, there seems to be a consequence of
There is, and I've found some really great communities with crafting. But that gets expensive as well.
Yeah, and neither of us are going to have enough money in retirement to be super comfortable.
Right.
We'll have living expenses. We'll have insurance.
Right.
We're independent. We have all that.
Right.
It's just there's not going to be. Neither of us have a very large retirement, and that's a whole other story about choices we've made in the past, in relationships and financial, you know, that we're paying for now, which I think a lot of women do.
Absolutely.
We're not married. We don't have a financial backer. And so we have to seriously think about, we don't want to be a burden to our kids financially or even medically. I worry about that too.
Yes.
So I don't know if this is a very helpful conversation because
we don't have the answers.
We don't have any answers. These are things that we talk about.
Right. So if I were going to say, if we're thinking about do what we say and not what we do. Monitor your finances a little bit better. I don't think you're ever too young to start thinking about your 401k or your retirement fund.
Yeah.
I've told my kids that now. When
if you start in your 20s,
yes,
and someone to encourage you to do it in your 20s, $100 a month. I mean, if I had just done that, I would have a shit ton of money.
Right? I could buy all the mother freaking yarn I wanted. I could pay somebody to knit for me when my wrists.
There you go. Great idea.
But it's true. Yeah. So if you're gonna do as we say, not as we do, for the love of Pete, start saving.
And it's never too late.
No.
Don't start because you think it's too late, because it's not. My grandma was in her 70s, I believe, 60s, 70s, which really seems very young. Kind of delayed her retirement because she needed to save more. So she probably worked maybe 5 more years into her retirement, but it made a difference.
Right.
It makes a difference because once you stop working, you do not have that income. You're set on what you've saved and Social Security, and that's it. And it's not
much.
No, it's not much. It's not enough to live, in Oregon, which is where we are.
Right. So monitor your finances, monitor your credit cards. I have paid off my same credit card easily 4 times. And in moderation, because then I will scrimp and save and not spend anything until I become so overwhelmed by not spending.
So kind of the all or nothing approach.
Exactly, because then I want a tattoo that costs $1,000. And instead of saving up and doing that in cash, I'll put it on my credit card. And then I'm thinking, I've got a $5,000 limit. It's $1,000. I'll just buy this thing and it's only $100. I'll pay that off payday. Well, then I don't see it. And before I know it, I've maxed it back out. Then I'm able to pay it off again.
Yep.
And then it just burns a hole in my pocket.
Yep. So these are definitely things we don't want you to do that we have done.
Finances are just so huge.
Well, especially being single. I mean, we don't have an additional. I'm in a house.
Right.
That's on me.
Right.
There's no one else helping me with the mortgage.
Right.
And I'm very thankful and grateful that I have the opportunity, but it's just me.
Right.
And I look at other situations and I'm like, oh, well,
Right.
that's great. They have 2 incomes. Wouldn't that be nice?
Right.
But that's my choice.
Absolutely. And my go-to whenever I think about retirement and I start to panic about finances is I'll get a second job. Always. I don't want a second job.
It's not a horrible idea. I mean, if you need to do it, if there's some additional income that you can have.
Absolutely.
Another thing that we've talked about is retirement isn't all or nothing. So why couldn't you work part-time? Why don't you just reduce your hours? You still have the benefits, but you still have that routine. I see myself doing that later on.
Yeah, I think for me personally, I would rather do something part-time, especially my job is easy peasy. There's not much stress. It's from home. I could see myself doing it even full-time until I'm 70 because it's not a stressful job.
Right.
Now, the job that I left, I would barely make it to 65.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's do as we say, not as we do, is to not staying in a job that's so stressful that really takes away your power, your mental health, your life.
Absolutely. And it's scary when you've been in the same role for years. And normally the universe has to kick my ass before I make a change.
It's hard to make a change.
Yeah.
It is. I've done it. It's a little hard.
Yeah. But that's so true. If you are stuck in a job that you absolutely hate, I mean, you can try to find some things that you like about it, which is the only way that I was able to survive that. But also start looking at what is it that you would like to do? Mm-hmm. What do you think you could do? Mm-hmm. Even halfway happily and do longer so that you could get more in your retirement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 Not all or nothing.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I see people that are afraid of making that change, and it breaks my heart because I know they're not happy. But I also recognize how difficult it can move into a whole new role. I've done it a couple times. And yeah, it's difficult. It really, really stretches you.
Absolutely.
But it's not impossible.
Right.
It's not impossible.
And also the change that I made was a little forced, but it was absolutely the best thing for me. My mental health has increased so much.
I would agree with that.
And that was partially the job. I made a whole lot of changes in a short amount of time.
Yes.
When I was 50. So talk about never being too late. I was 50 when I made some major life changes. Divorce. Changed a job at 55 that I had for almost 20 years. Now, granted, all these were forced because, like I said, it takes the universe to kick my ass before I make a change.
Yeah.
But it closed those doors and it opened this one. And it was by far, it's like, why did I not look at this before?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
why did
don't
I not
stay
look?
where you're stuck. Yeah, you were miserable.
I was.
You were
But it was
absolutely
comfortable. That's
Absolutely.
what I knew. I knew how to be miserable really well.
Well, I mean, learning something new is very threatening. You don't want to fail. You're in a job for 20 years. You knew everything.
You know the answers.
And it's, as you get older, I mean, well, everybody does. I'm not going to discriminate against people that are younger. But it's, like you said, it's not only comfortable, but you have confidence.
Yes.
So you gain your confidence from your job. So when you left that, you took a hit.
Yeah.
You had some rough times.
I did. I took a hit financially. I took it. Oh, talk about ego. Girls got an ego.
Oh, yeah. I mean, me too.
Yeah. So it was, going from knowing the answers, being the go-to person, to being the new person, not knowing anything. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, but my brain functions just a little bit slower than what it did when I was younger. So learning something new was also a little bit scarier for me because it's like, am I going to get it? And it felt like it was taking me forever to learn. Now, granted, I'm also really hard on myself and I expect perfection almost immediately.
Yeah, because you did very well. So I even know that.
So scary times. So those are things that I would wish for my own kids or my friends, not my enemies. They can suck it. They can go through life miserable.
And we can take that part out.
It's stay. So look at your finances, and talk about all or nothing. Don't sit here and say, okay, I can only spend $50 unless that's truly all you have in your budget. But start small. If you're a horrible saver, me, the best that I did is when you talked about cash.
Oh,
I took
when you
20
did that
bucks.
book? Yes.
I took 20
We've tried
bucks.
several methods.
I took out $20 cash every payday, and I stashed it in one of those book saver things.
Yep.
Because I have object permanence issues. So if I stash it and I don't see it, I forget about it in like 5 minutes. So every payday I started taking 20 bucks and I stashed it in this book. And I did really well. Now, have I spent it recently? Maybe.
But
it was there to spend.
Exactly. It's like when people say, "Oh, I've got to take out of my savings to fix my car." Yeah, but thank goodness.
But you had it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there's and I think as we get older and even before, I think there's lots of fear around money because we are on our own and it's just us and we don't want to be a burden to our kids. And so, we think about it a lot.
Absolutely. And so am I ready for retirement? No, I'm not. I'm not ready financially. I'm not ready mentally.
Nope.
I enjoy working.
Yeah, me too.
I enjoy the social aspect of working.
Yes.
Working is almost more social for me than anything. And I need that.
Yeah. So, food for thought.
Right.
Things to think about.
Right. Getting a sugar daddy.
Here we go.
I know. I'm just saying, do as I say, not as I do. This one you don't necessarily have to do as I say, but give it some thought.
She's talked about this a lot, but never really gone forward with it. She could never do it.
I couldn't because I don't want somebody bossing me around and holding the purse strings. F you. If I want to spend it, I'm going to spend it.
Agreed.
I don't want an allowance. But if that's for your thing,
no judgment.
Absolutely.
No judgment.
I'll be jealous.
So Fester's trying to encroach on our video
Hi,
here.
Fester.
So I don't know if you can see him or not, but he's staring at Tammy. So we're going to go for now.
Okay.
Does that sound like a plan?
It sounds like a plan.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't get to talk about sex. I didn't get to talk about drinking.
Okay, we're leaving now.
All of this stuff.
And we'll see you later. Bye.